There's people that live in the big city that would love to just listen to and feel what we're feeling right now.
We're a guest here, and we're only here for a short time, and then we're gone.
Environmentalists and farmers, I believe, can get along.
We have to work together. That's the bottom line.
I think we all need to be good stewards of the land.
Funding for Stewards of the Land is provided by a grant from the United States Department of Agriculture Rural Development and by the members of Prairie Public.
Our slogan is "Farm the best, alternatives on the rest."
This Conservation Ag program, I believe, was a bit of an eye-opener for me in terms of maybe changing some of my practices, my farming practices.
For years, farmers and environmentalists have been at odds over things like what constitutes a designated wetland area, soil and tilling practices, use of chemicals, and just a general mistrust of one another. So in 2000, the North Dakota Natural Resources Trust decided to fund a 5-year conservation agriculture program using 4 test farms in the Devil's Lake Basin as guinea pigs.
Well, the Conservation Agriculture Program was designed to be a demonstration project to prove that farmers could implement conservation practices on their farm and would be willing to do that.
There's no question we're apprehensive. When you start talking about bringing in wildlife interests and all over the board in terms of ag, it sends up a little bit of a flag.
This was the prime stumbling block, convincing 4 farmers in the basin to actually sign up for the program, which wasn't easy.
All 4 of them were very reluctant. One said, I was explaining the program to him, and he said, I just didn't fall off the turnip truck.
The concern is that whenever you take land out of production, that you will lose money because they perceive it as land being idle. And the way farming works today, most farmers farm every inch they can because margins are tight.
I, like other farmers, were cautious. We want a lot of information. We don't have a lot of room for making monumental mistakes. We make a number of them just like everyone does. I was assured that I would be the one that would ultimately decide upon the choices.
Well, it started about 5 years ago. A neighbor of mine is on the board with North Dakota Wetlands Trust, I guess. I turned him down 2 times and he finally convinced me to give it a try.
And after much prodding, meetings, and assurances, 4 brave farmers signed up.
And a key ingredient in this whole program was incentive. To get us involved, to offer some dollars to try and do this, and looking to the future and hopefully passing on what we learned here.
We'd have probably been a lot more in the hole if that we hadn't had the Conservation Ag program.
These farmers were all very experienced, and yet one of them likened it to a graduate school for farmers.
So it was an ongoing kind of incremental process, but we're different farmers than we were 5 years ago. We're soybeans and wheat, and we've got 10.5 quarters.
The program that we've just been involved in has had a lot of pluses that I think have really helped out. The advisory team, which is a lot of experts, and they've been great to call upon.
So we began to look at some of these areas and determined that putting grass waterways in some of the ravines, and also to put buffer areas of grass next to the water areas would, one, you'd reduce the amount of annual crop input because you're probably not getting it back, and 2, it would be better for the soil in that the grass would eat up some of that salt. Down here, this area, this land is very rolly, and there's a lot of drainage that runs to potholes and then on farther eventually to the Maple River. And we've got a grass waterway we put in down in through here. We redid our bookkeeping system here. We learned about GPS and mapping. We got a end-on weather station out here on our property. Part of that was worked together with some finance people to put it out there.
We got these weather stations that are really very fine. You can call up and you can get the rainfall and the wind and the temperature, soil temperature, and all of that.
This is station number 59 of the NDON network. NDON is North Dakota Ag Weather Network. It's instantaneous data that goes from here through telephone line on to NDSU and has gone into the state system then. And we use it a lot. The neighbors use it a lot. And we even use it on vacation. We can find out what's going on back here. The things we use it for mostly is rainfall total, and that's the first thing you get when you call it. It tells you rainfall total today and rainfall total yesterday. It tells you temperature, high, low. And now as we see these crops come out of ground, the next thing that's important is wind and wind speed and wind direction. But like the soybeans I'm planting now, you should have 50-degree soil temperature around the clock. And that weather station has a pad buried 4 inches below the ground, and you can call it. It takes a little time to get to that information, but then it says the bare soil temperature at 4-inch depth.
You're always doing something different. You're not stuck doing the same thing over and over. And to be out here and kind of be your own boss, I kind of like that.
Matt's been a neighbor kid. He's my cousin, and we're hoping that he has an opportunity here in agriculture. He likes it, works hard, comes early, stays late, and worries, sweats it, so that's part of it too.
I started working out here when I was 15. I grew up with his kids, so we all kind of worked together out here and worked here after school, and after school turned into full-time.
Looking at the financial return, I think we did improve. I know we improved in decision making. We started right next to the water and worked our way out onto the farmland, and then over a 5-year period we tried to see if the soil salinity had in fact improved. And the results were marginal. I mean, it wasn't bang up, but it was enough to convince you that area that we put that grass in was best to have in grass. Here we got pheasants in the trees every once in a while. They're crowing away, and lots of birds, lots of activity, including coyotes, which we haven't had for a while. So now they're singing at night occasionally.
We are glad we did it. The advisory committee was great, and the one other thing that we did do was got our books on the computer.
Made some contacts, made some friends, and we're all kind of curious about how we can in fact do our jobs better and grow better crops, and in the process keep the land as a valuable resource like it is and for the next guy.
Those 4 years I was involved, overall we had some good years there. I'm glad I was involved. It was a learning experience and made me aware of some things. And as far as the soil sampling and the scientific part of it, it made me a little bit more aware of some of those things. And yeah, I'm really glad I was in it.
I'm Deborah Odegaard from Eglin, North Dakota, and we farm canola, flax, oats, wheat, barley, and peas.
One of the interesting stories is the Odegaards have livestock, and they were the only demonstration farm to have livestock. And they started using a rotational grazing system that made some dramatic changes in some of the pastures that they were using, that they were having problems congregate in their favorite spot, whether that's around water or under a shade tree, and it'll kill the pasture in that one specific area. And so they were able to do smaller pens and move their cattle more frequently, which actually increases the vigor of the grasses and things that are in the pastures.
We fenced it in half so that we could force them onto that other grass, and that worked very well. Basically, the bottom line, when you do anything, you want better production. I was able to increase my cows 10 to 15% in a year, depending upon the rain and so forth, but that's generally the way it would work. What our goal was to increase production, and we were able to do it. I mulch till. It's about the way everybody farms around here, depending upon what crop you've had before, but go through once in the fall and then do your anhydrous after that, and then you seed it, pretty much just seed it directly in the spring. We like to keep as much trash as possible. That's our goal. It doesn't always happen depending upon what crops you've grown to eliminate the blowing and the erosion part of it, you know, and the retention of moisture and stuff like that is a big deal. Equipment is getting better for no-till, and that's, I think the drills that they have now with the big air tanks and the no-till drills that they've got are really excellent drills, and that's going to be, you know, that's going to help. I took another whole field that had quite a bit of wetlands in it, and it was marginal farm ground. I took the whole field and seeded it into grass, and we did quite a bit of measuring there of all kinds of wildlife. They did a lot of bird watching.
It's going to get dusty.
I learned a lot, you know, and it's always better to work with more than one or two people, because you just start, okay, what about this now? Have you ever thought of this? Well, I've kind of thought about it, but I haven't done it, or I haven't thought about it, whatever, you know what I mean? You learn and you start getting together and you collaborate, and okay, let's try this.
Well, we just keep happy and stay farming. I like being outside. That sums it up, but it's just somebody else can do the housework.
We farm about 3,000 acres between my son-in-law and myself. Raise a wide variety of crops. We have some winter wheat in this year, spring wheat. We're also looking at edible beans, corn, soybeans, and maybe for the first time in probably 20 years, we might have a few sunflowers this year.
Clark was very informative, and he would, talk to me about what we were doing, on the farm, and it really helped me in the classroom because I enjoy bringing the agriculture into my classroom and talking about the habitat and soils, different soils.
We were a little bit hesitant at first to climb on board and be involved. It didn't take us long to change our mind, however, but at first we were a little bit apprehensive.
Clark Lemley has gone principally to no-till now, and so I did a test where we had a control strip. This was all across one field to see if any of those would really provide some extra nitrogen, provide cover for the soil. The overall yield for the field was a good yield.
Well, basically we're looking at last year's corn ground, and this is a corn crop here that's had a very, very light tillage. Coulter is what we call it, just to basically break up the stalks a little bit, give us just a little bit of bare ground showing up so that we can get a little drying effect going on here. The big differences are that we change our soil structure when we do an extended period of no-till. I have a parcel of land that's been in no-till for about 6 years now, and our water infiltration has changed markedly over time, and the soil structure has changed, and we're looking at an improved soil health situation, I think, on no-till. What we're seeing way in the background and the brown looking area back here is a cattail wetland. And of course it's a permanent wetland, and because of the areas that are around the particular wetland, they are not particularly productive. There's been bird counts done here, and we do have increased bird activity as well as a more divergent amount of species that are involved here too. I'm still of a mind that we need to, if we're going to set aside areas like these buffers and that type of thing, I mean, we need to have some compensation here for that land. We'd like to see that incorporated more into a conservation plan, and that's possible.
it's a gamble. I think farming is a gamble, and you never know what the weather's going to be like, or so you just have to kind of go with the flow. And I think he's accepted. When he was younger, he worried a lot about what's going to happen here, and now I think he just, with the experiences and the new programs that are out there, he just feels a little more positive about what he's doing and doesn't worry as much. Yeah, so I have to be kind of that background and say it's going to be okay.
Farm about 7,000 acres. Pretty much flat spring wheat, some corn, edible beans, a few soybeans, not a lot, and then a little canola. My wife works down in Harvey. My kids both go to school there. They're both pretty active in sports and whatever down there.
It's hard to juggle sometimes, but we manage. Bruce comes down to Harvey quite a bit, and we come back to the farm quite a bit.
After I turned them down the first couple of times, I thought, well, maybe a guy should, we can't keep fighting. Maybe we should try and work with them and see if we can't work something out. This is a wetland, had water on it for 10, 12 years now. It just got to be some real alkali spots around the edge where nothing would really grow. So we went and seeded some grass around it. It took a couple of years, but the grass started to grow.
That would be a major change of going from this attitude of being very suspicious, especially in the Devil's Lake Basin. He lives near Candu, and the relationship between the environmental community and the agriculture community there is very tense. And yet, by the end of the program, he agreed to serve on the Soil Conservation District Board.
I've been on the Soil Conservation Board, I believe it's on 3 years right now. And it's been interesting, still learning a little bit, I guess. We do a lot with planting trees. Right now there's some shelter belt renovations I'd like to, around some of these farmsteads that have been there for, I don't know how many years. And those trees have kind of outlived themselves, and I guess I'm kind of pushing for some kind of a program to help renovate some of these farmstead shelter belts. The biggest thing was change the shovels on our chisel plow in the fall of the year. Rather than the wide beaver tails, we went to some narrow 2-inch spikes, trying to keep some more residue on top. We managed, I think we were 30-40% residue before, and then we bumped it up to the last couple of years. I think we were between 60 and 80% residue. We did a lot of soil testing too, I guess. Then I got 1 quarter. We went strictly no-till on 1 quarter. This will be 4 years in a row. Actually, this is my 5th year now, I guess. Strictly no-till on that quarter, which we'd never done before. Yeah, we got a buffer strip out in a field we're standing next to here. We've left it there, I guess, so I'm not sure how long we're going to leave it there. We're not getting paid anything for it right now, so we're going to either have to come up with a program or I won't tear it up totally. I think I'll just start no-tilling it. It was a really interesting program. I had a resource team that we worked with, and they come to my farm about twice a year, once in the spring, and then after harvest we sat down and looked at things again. We learned some stuff, I guess. Biggest thing is the residue and watching organic matter and trying to keep some of that, mainly to keep some residue there. So yeah, I think it was quite helpful. I guess I'd like to see him farm, but if he doesn't want to, that's fine too. But at this point, I think that's all he thinks about, I guess, farming and football. It gets tough some years. Some years are real good, and some years are not so good. So, but kind of all averages out, I guess. You just got to hang in there.
I think we all need to be good stewards of the land, not just the farmers, but it is important for the farmers because they're raising the crops for the families, and it's a great program.
For the 4 test farmers in the program, all it took was a little incentive for them to become true conservationists. But for others, conservation has been a way of life for many years.
Well, this is our future meat and egg supply. For weed control, under the right conditions, we can get 100% weed control with this. I was one of the first ones in the state to start farming organically, and of course everybody looks askance at you, and then the learning curve, more weeds, and You know, this guy's crazy, he's not going to last very long. Well, I'm here after 30 years.
Well, one thing that's unique about this farm is it's only 480 acres, which is very unique in North Dakota agriculture. And what we've tried to do here is work with the resource base that we have and to diversify as much as possible and derive an income from that diversity. We've raised carrots, beets, onions, different types of squash. We had developed a watermelon variety that we raise, and beets, just tomatoes, a whole host of varieties of tomatoes.
This is our little greenhouse. This is kind of where it starts in the spring. We've got all of the vegetable seed crops that we plant out in the field that are transplants are started in here. The garden has always been an integral part of the farm, so we eat first from here.
You know, most people define organic by what they don't do, and that's probably the most common understanding that people have of organic, is that they do not use chemicals or synthetic fertilizers to control weeds. Instead, it's a much more holistic practice that works with the natural cycles.
We're always researching something new crops, new varieties, looking at different angles to approach things. And so we do a lot of our own research here too in response to those things. One of the things that we're doing research on is a winter triticale that's hardy for this area, provides good grazing, and also makes good grain. Baby kitties. I decided at the beginning of my research that I was going to prove the idea of organic farm was a hoax, and it was wrong. Look in the camera. And I proved to myself otherwise.
We're very cavalier about the use of agrochemicals in our farming communities, and it's time we took stock of that and really looked at, you know, what the health effects are, not only on our individual families but on our communities, and try to do something to mitigate the damage. If you look at agriculture, there isn't a profession that interacts more closely with nature and the natural environment. And in order for agriculture to be sustainable, farmers have to be environmentalists. It's just as simple as that.
The Podolls are a working example of how to live off the land and preserve it at the same time. And over a 5-year period, the 4 test farms in the Conservation Agriculture Program discovered and embraced this idea as well.
Anything that they wanted to do and we could find a little pot of money, that's what we did.
I'm the 4th generation out here, so we're environmentalists. We have been and we always will be.
I was real happy with the program. I was a little apprehensive at first.
So from the societal benefits of increased wildlife habitat, those things were actually measured using benchmarks that were in place. There were also species counts as far as plants, and also some monitoring that went on as far as the wetlands, especially with a stream, monitoring the water quality of that. And there were a number of positive results that we could see even in a short 5-year demonstration project.
The Conservation Agriculture Program was a big success for all involved. The trick now is to continue these efforts on a national level, otherwise farmers may go back to old practices without the economic incentives that were available to them during the 5-year study.
I believe there's a push now, farm state legislators included, that there be more conservation entitlements involved in the Farm Bill.
Certainly, I think they all will continue to use the no-till or reduced-till practices. As far as setting aside wetlands, well, in many cases there aren't programs that could provide those incentive payments. So I'm not sure what they will end up doing.
And perhaps most importantly, farmers and the environmentalists administering this program reached common ground and helped bridge a gap that for too long has been far too wide.
Yeah, I guess really I think the farmers are the real true environmentalists.
That stuff's really important, and it's kind of another signal that you're out there with nature, and you're one of those critters out there, and you kind of get along with the rest of them.
This project was really successful in that it developed programs that were really farmer-friendly programs. And when that happens, society as a whole benefits. It also helps the farmer economically, and I think that benefits all of us, especially in a rural place like North Dakota.
Funding for Stewards of the Land is provided by a grant from the United States Department of Agriculture Rural Development and by the members of Prairie Public.
To order a DVD copy of Stewards of the Land for $24.95, call 1-800-359-6900 or visit our website at www.prairiepublic.org.